Okay. I'm done.
That is Patrick Michael, and this is the Literature Cafe Global. Got a great night planned for everybody with a lot of entertainment, and we want to make sure everybody sticks around.
Sounded great, Pat. Thank you very much.
And everybody out there in YouTube land, give a big applause to Patrick Michael. Hey, David, your sound seems to have gone out there.
I just wanted to say that it was excellent. I always love his bottleneck blues guitar. It's phenomenal.
His Americana is wonderful.
Yeah, it's.
And we're glad that we got Rebecca, Jane, Catherine here tonight in attendance watching the show. We're hoping for some more guests here at the Literature Cafe Global, but there's been a couple nights when it was just me and David, and I swear we were just telling knock-knock jokes.
Right.
But I'm going to read from my book, Bizarre Verse, which was published by Bacchus Pele Productions, David Koci here.
Yep.
Producer, production, the man with the snakes on his chest. And he's not in charge of the cult, but, you know.
The man with snakes on chest.
The man with snakes on chest.
Dang.
But this is called Patterns. Patterns and rows of miscellaneous shapes strewn across the page. Letters and symbols followed by rows of seemingly normal ratios. Patterns and odd written letters. A secret formula in your mind. Lucid dreams and signs of the sage you could be. If only you could see the wonders the same. Earlier it rained, and I thought the lightning and thunder would never cease because it was becoming patterns and rows of miscellaneous shapes, patterns and odd written letters, patterns and rows of colors that are only seen in the sky. Earth and heavenly stars exhale atop a mountain above the valley. See the wonders as they come to be, patterns and different quotients, exponents of your mind, patterns, and now rows of miscellaneous shapes strewn across the page, letters and symbols, followed by rows of seemingly normal ratios. This book was inspired by Cafe Coco, which is gone now. But, and guys, I'm going to give a little intro for Michael Forman here. He's going to do a short piece before we get to Christopher T. George discussing his books and everything. And Michael Forman is what I would call a great experimental musician. And he's going to show what he's got, and this is Michael Forman.
So I'm just going to show you some of the equipment I have very quickly. Where do I turn this around? There we go. TD303 clone. I've got the Behringer Faro Mini. I have an onion. You'll see what that does in a minute. A noise box. I have a mixer and the beginning of a Euro rack here. What this is it's going to run off of a sequence created by this onion because this one here operates off of biofeedback with the electrical signals from it. So I'm going to get back down in the phone and I'm going to do something here. It's going to turn really chaotic here in a second. Why can't I? There we go.
Okay, cool.
All right. Turn this back on again. Make sure my amp is on. All right.
introduction. Thank you.
Yes.
So basically, pretty much back in some ways. All right, guys. I think we're gonna get started now with Chris because we're gonna show him some of the stuff we had, and Christopher T. George is an exceptional author. He's written many books, and I am just honored to have him here. And I'm going to turn it over to Christopher T. George because I think I saw a thing where you had this as a presentation, so we should sit back and kind of see what this is all about. All right.
And let me pull up my presentation. I've been involved with Edgar Allan Poe since the 1970s. I wrote an article for Maryland Magazine in 1974 about the mysterious death of Edgar Allan Poe, and it was a tour of places around Baltimore that were associated with Poe. And as you can see here, he was born January 19th, 1809, and died October 7th, 1849. And so he was only 40 years of age, and there's a big mystery about exactly what happened to him. He was found delirious outside a bar in East Baltimore, in fact, Ryan's Tavern. And the question is, there was an election going on in Baltimore on that day. And there's a theory in Baltimore that he was drugged and voted as a repeater, taken from poll to poll. But I'm not sure that that actually happened. I really think that the key to what happened to Edgar Allan Poe is that his young wife died 2 years before, and he was virtually a broken man when he came to Baltimore in October 1849. He'd been down in Virginia, been on a kind of lecture tour, and had been trying to find a new wife. But he married his young wife when she was only 13 or 14. And that's, I really think, what happened to him, that he wasn't in good shape at all. So let's go on to the next slide, if I can make it go. Oh, come on. I'm sorry. Oh, I know what I need to.
No worries. Yeah. It's super interesting.
Yeah, here we go. A couple of poems by Poe. To Helen by Edgar Allan Poe. Helen, thy beauty is to me like those Nicean barks of yore that gently o'er a perfumed sea the weary wayworn wanderer bore to his own native shore, on desperate seas wont to roam. Thy hyacinth hair, thy classic face, thy naiad airs have brought me home to the glory that was Greece and the grandeur that was Rome. Lo, in yon brilliant window niche, how statue-like I see thee stand, the agate lamp within my hand. Ah, Psyche, from the regions which are Holy Land. Poe's mother died when he was very young in Richmond. Poe's mother and father were itinerant actors. And we really don't know what happened to David Poe, who was his father. His grandfather, David Poe Sr., was quartermaster general in Baltimore during the Revolution, and later on fought in his 70s to fight off the British when they were trying to attack Baltimore in 1814, which is one of my things that I write about. And so he came to Baltimore after he was thrown out of University of Virginia for getting in debts, and also out of West Point. He'd been adopted by a foster father, John Allen, which accounts for the Allen in the middle of his name. It's not A-L-E-N, it's A-L-L-A-N. He was a Scottish-born tobacco merchant. And so he came to Baltimore in the 1830s and got involved with his family there. Maria Clem was his aunt, and she had a young daughter, Virginia, which he subsequently married to my mother by Edgar Allan Poe, because I feel that in the heavens above, the angels whispering to one another can find, among their burning terms of love, none so devotional as that of mother. Therefore, by that dear name I long have called you, you who are more than a mother unto me, and fill my heart of hearts where death installed you, in setting my Virginia's spirit free. My mother, my own mother, who died early, was but the mother of myself, but you are mother to the one I loved so dearly, and thus are dearer than the mother I knew, by that infinity with which my wife was dearer to my soul than its soul life. And this by Jerry Langdon, with the ravens and unkindness. They congregate in a sorrowful gale, holding mourning souls in misto pale, their callings cawing, clawing ears, a dirge for all those forlorn tears, and unkindness of ravens surge, their saddened song does purge, haunting as they remind of dismal days, taunting they scream in the dreadful haze. Here does death now call, where curtains make a final fall. Unkind is the unkindness, for death knows no blindness. This is by Bob Bradshaw, a poem that I really like about Poe and his young wife Virginia. Edgar Allan Poe. He would call Virginia his child bride, years into their marriage, gazing at him like a gosling sighting her first moon, when that first small drop of blood quivered on her lower lip, her fingers trembling out another note on the piano Edgar had taught her how to play. Edgar withheld the truth, saying, "It's only a ruptured capillary." He had tutored his wife, as well as on geometry and astronomy, the two together following the slow movement of stars, if they too had all the time in the world for Virginia to grow up. For years her health would rebloom for weeks, only to fail once more like a short spring, her hands jittery, his grief as raw as any whiskey. He stroked her hair, limp with sweat. He nursed her day and night, and became a candle on a small table, a vigilant, faltering flame, blood spotting Virginia's white bed cover, recalling his mother's early death, while Virginia's fingers grasped his in those last hours. Edgar knew what he had tried to ignore for years. Those he loved would always let go, leaving him behind. And a lighter poem by me, a poem with the M in parentheses. Did you ever tarry in your dictionary and muse on how apropos it is that Edgar Poe should be situate, wouldn't you know it, next to poem and to poet. In your dictionary wandering, did you ever take to pondering, is a poet Poe having tea? Or poetry Poe up a tree? Or is poetic Poe with a tick? And while the latter may seem horrid, remember, poesy can be florid. That's me giving one of my Poe presentations. Picture of Poe behind me. I worked for the Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions, and I was able to walk to the hospital where Poe died. At Church Hospital, Baltimore, for Sandy. When I say I often walk to Church Hospital in my lunch hour, you say, my husband died there. So I go there and stand in the peace where Poe died, the poet's final room of delirium, eviscerated by a massive oak staircase. Outside the pointed arched window, white smoke from the Baltimore harbor, rising in the winter rain, red-berried trees, and below, on a wet tar paper roof, the skeleton of a bird. And there he is in all his misery. Edgar Allan Poe to his late wife. Virginia, when a song ruptured your throat and toppled you into the long consumptive decline, to that eternity in which I could not touch you, my life broke apart like a storm-racked ship. I drifted like a ghost ship toward rocks, finished up senseless in a Baltimore gutter, in a drumming October rain, a derelict in a cheap alpaca coat and a battered hat. A lifetime earlier, I'd found shelter in Baltimore, your cousin Eddie, the cashiered West Point cadet, the aspiring poet scratching at his impecunious art, whom you got to know with a child's eyes, a sister's love. My love for you grew into an impossible flowering. I married you over the protests of relatives. You were only 13, my violet-eyed bride, devoted to me, delicate in looks and demeanor. Your speech the more beautiful because of the lisp you never lost. You were my ideal, Virginia, the star that guided me through my darkest, maddest nights, the convoluted channels of my genius. But what agony as I saw your starlight fade, as you sank lower, choked with consumption. I saw the folly of hope that final winter. I cradled you in my West Point greatcoat, prayed for the miracle I knew could not happen. The light died in me when you died. We laid your coffin on my writing desk, like the prow of a lost ship or an offering to some terrible god. 18 months later, ill, haunted, hollow, I sailed back to Baltimore for the final time. My body was laid in a plain wood coffin, lowered into the ground where you waited for me. And a bit of artwork that I dug up. The raven tried to steal fire from the 7 Pleiades sisters and was charred black when it failed. Aborigine legend. I read the top one earlier for Sandy. Sad eyes. You sit in the honky-tonk restaurant in the Pennsylvania mountains, a sprig of vetch in your hair, stirring your cosmopolitan, an impasse between us, and you smoke a Tiparillo furiously, red bandana at your throat as sad eyes plays from the juke. You say I can't salve your needs. You feel you are exploding inside. Your t-shirt announces blackly, Poe lives, and poor old Poe stares at me sorrowfully with his black, sad, sad eyes. And that's written about my first wife, whose birthday happens to be today. Poe, you stir from the bronze medallion of your white marble tomb as if frightened life could still reach you. And here's a trivia question for you. What connects Edgar Allan Poe, Baltimore, and the Tower of London? We'll ask that in a few moments if anybody can answer it. And I'm going to finish with this poem by Poe, Annabel Lee. It was many and many a years ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the chill came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. Okay. Anybody know the answer to the trivia question?
I would like to say I think it's because, is it all in England? Location?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Tower of London.
Okay.
It's often...
All I can figure is, I thought it was location, but I'll let go. I'm going to listen now.
Well, it's about the ravens at the Tower of London. They say if the ravens ever left the Tower of London, the Tower of London would fall.
Wow, that's something great to learn.
Yeah.
So I was taking a different angle entirely. I was going to ask if it had anything to do with Bram the Blessed.
All right.
That's mythology, though.
Okay.
I think the technical term for what you were describing earlier with Poe being forced to vote, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the technical term is cooping.
That's correct. Yeah, that's okay. Right. And if you look at the video that I posted in the chat, there's this psychic that came up from Key West, and she had this weird theory about a southern Baltimore politician who was involved in Poe's death. And I don't know where she got that information from. I don't agree with her at all. And if you look at the video, you'll see that I'm looking very skeptical at various times during the video.
I have a question. Since you've written so extensively about Poe, do you ever find yourself, well, of course, these moments where you're defending what happened and what didn't happen and what sounds like this fake stuff? How do you deal with all that kind of stuff?
Well, I just got very involved in his whole story and kind of felt very sorry for him. And I just think that he was a broken man, basically. I mean, you can come up with all sorts of theories. There's a guy who wrote a book that, I said a little bit earlier that he'd gone down to Virginia to try to find a new wife. There's this theory that a couple of the brothers of one of the women beat him up and virtually killed him, So, but again, I don't agree with that theory either. I think it's almost, I've been involved also with Jack the Ripper, and there are so many weird theories about that as well. And I don't think we'll ever know what happened with those Ripper murders.
There was also a theory about it being some diplomat, wasn't there? Like I want to say Prussia or something like that.
But are you talking about the Ripper now?
Yes, because you brought up the Ripper.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's all sorts of different theories about him being maybe a Jewish guy from the East End, or different lords and earls that got involved, and all of this. Right. But again, there's no real proof. We've got no fingerprints. We've got no forensic evidence. And I got specifically involved in 1992 because where I lived in Liverpool, first of all, down the street from where I lived, there was a monastic grange that dated back to 1292. And so I went down there, took pictures of that and everything. But then in 1992, the late Ed Bradley on 60 Minutes interviewed a woman who'd written a book about the so-called diary of Jack the Ripper. And there was this Liverpool cotton merchant, James Maybrick, who supposedly was killed by arsenic by his Alabama-born wife, Florence, born Florence Chandler in Mobile, Alabama. And there's no real proof that he was murdered. In fact, he seems to have been an arsenic addict rather than having been murdered by her. And so, and I have a theory that there was a guy, a Liverpool writer, who wrote both about the Maybrick case and Jack the Ripper. Did he forge that diary? I don't know. And there's one particular line in the diary in which, the murders took place in Whitechapel, London. And there's a street in Liverpool called Whitechapel. And there's a line in the diary in which he says, well, Whitechapel, Liverpool, Whitechapel, London. Well, why should I not go to London and commit the murders? But I have one specific objection to him having gone 200 miles from Liverpool down to London to commit the murders. Liverpool was a seaport filled with prostitutes. Why did he have to go 200 miles down to London to kill prostitutes? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, especially at that point in time, it'd be hard to travel that far, I would imagine.
Yeah. The other thing about Whitechapel is Liverpool has this strange thing. We have this thing about the Beatles. You probably know that the Beatles come from Liverpool, right? And I was born in the same hospital as John Lennon, and then later on attended Quarrybank High School, which John also attended. It was the same headmaster when I went there. And the headmaster, Mr. Pobjoy, helped him get into art school. And the Beatles were originally named the Quarrymen. Another little bit of tidbit is that my granddad's elder brother was a music hall comedian. Paul McCartney was his paperboy. And Uncle Bill used to shout at Paul for jumping over the fence between the houses. So,
That
but
is amazing.
That's fascinating.
but there's a number of statues around Liverpool. One of the best of them is the four Beatles at the Pier Head. And what I was going to say about Whitechapel is that the record store owned by Brian Epstein was on Whitechapel, and they've just put up a lovely statue of him right there that you can visit. And there's also a statue of Eleanor Rigby. I don't know whether you ever heard the name Tommy Steele.
Eleanor Rigby. Okay. I don't know the lyrics. I was just like, Eleanor Rigby, thinking about it. Sorry. Let me mute myself.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's pretty interesting, and just the whole. I really appreciate you sharing with us the fact that a lot of the facts that we may have gotten from cable television, mystery shows, or just through the grapevine or by our English teachers were all potentially wrong, because there's no actual answer for a lot of the things that you raised as questions. And I thought that was awesome. I love it. I love to hear. I'd rather hear like lack of information than misinformation, you know. And I was talking to my stepdad the other day, and you know, I guess I don't know. I went to college at a different time than he did, and a lot of the facts I know contradict the ones that he knows.
Okay.
And that concerns me, but I guess it is what it is. But these are things I learned in school, thought they were right, but he has things he learned in school and thought they were right too. So it's really hard to. I mean, overall, we mean well, and we both have a good heart, and we try to think progressively, I guess I'd say, you know, or just like in a way that's like sensible. I guess to redefine that, we try to think sensibly and based on like, you know, information that we know comes from sources that we believe we can trust. But I guess even that like can alter over time, you know, and it's really frustrating. But yeah.
I lived in Baltimore for a long time, and I got fascinated with the story of the War of 1812, and the fact that Baltimore was attacked in 1814, 3 weeks after the British burned the White House and the Capitol.
Okay.
And Baltimore was better defended than Washington was, and they had a good defense. And the thing was that the British general was killed. Now there's a guy in Baltimore who puts out videos, Baltimore Heritage, and he makes this claim that British General Ross was buried in his home village in Ireland. That's categorically incorrect. And, you know, people put out bad information. And there's also a person who put out this religious thing about that the British had thousands of prisoners in the hulls of their ships and all this type of thing. I mean, people spread bad information all the time. And I'm afraid with AI, it's going to get worse and worse, you know?
I really respect that concern. I have the same concern.
I do too.
There are already people like throughout my cohorts. You know, I've always just said, you know, I'm a little skeptical of AI is my take on it, and I'd prefer like, you know, my art and music to come from like, you know, my personal intuition and sense of creative flow. You know, personally,
Okay.
that's my choice, and I put that on Facebook, and there are like people now. I don't know why, but you know, within my cohort of, you know, people that I, you know, listen to music with and stuff and belong in groups with, they're kind of bullish about the necessity. They're like, you know, claim that there's a necessity to embrace AI or we're going to be left behind. And I'm a survivor. Like I'm the first, my brother and I were like the first people in our family not to join the military. And
Okay.
yeah,
Right.
even though we didn't join, my dad was really, he just didn't want us to. He didn't think we were mentally or organizationally equipped to deal with the military. I don't know why, but we both have, you know, attention problems, so maybe that's why. But anyways.
Well, I have a bit of a story about that, in that when I came back to the United States, I went back to England, went to school I first came to the United States in 1955. The thing was that my father was a physical therapist and he had private patients. He used to travel everywhere on a motorcycle. And my maternal grandfather refused to buy him a car. And so he decided to emigrate and was looking to go to Canada or Australia or, the United States or New Zealand. And eventually he found out about this hospital northwest of Baltimore called CRI and got a job there as a physical therapist. And I'd been told that the hospital was the forerunner of the Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore. And but then in the 1960s, I was allowed to go back to Liverpool and live with my maternal grandparents. I came back to the United States, re-emigrated in 1968, and I had to go to the American Embassy in Grosvenor Square, London, where there had been demonstrations against the Vietnam War. And I had to sign an agreement that I would agree to serve in the U.S. forces if I was drafted. As it was, I entered Loyola College in Baltimore and never had to serve. But I had this respect for the military, even though I never served myself. And that's one of the things that I've written about the military in Baltimore at the time of 1814.
And I appreciate that because I don't know how I understand it. I read a lot of history, or I try to when I can, and it seems to me like there's definitely a relationship. I don't know if I'm right, but it seems like, I guess, the British conceded in the Revolutionary War, but perhaps like maybe they didn't get the revenue they thought they'd get from just products they were selling in America after the Revolutionary War. So maybe they felt like they needed to recoup some resources, so they tried to attack America again. Is that
No. It had nothing to do with that. The War of 1812 was really an outcome of the Napoleonic Wars. But the other thing that you need to understand about the Revolution is that it was really more of a civil war. There were.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I hear what you're saying.
What I was going to say is I'd recommend there's a documentary I've been watching called Revolution or American Revolution. It's Ken Burns.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. That's all I was going to say. I'm sorry. That's one of my bad habits. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's great.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Ken Burns, American Revolution is a documentary that we can watch. Good deal.
I've written about the Battle of Cowpens, which took place January 17th, 1781, down in South Carolina, northwest South Carolina. And there was a British force under Bannister Tarleton, who was a controversial British commander who happened to be the son of the mayor of Liverpool, which, of course, interested me. And there were also Maryland and Delaware troops there. And the Americans were commanded by Daniel Morgan, and they defeated Tarleton. Tarleton is also known as Bloody Tarleton. If you ever see the film The Patriot, it shows this scene in which Tabington, who's based on Tarleton, burns citizens in a church. That never happened back then. I mean, there are some incidents in which he supposedly massacred American troops, but he never burned civilians in a church. And again, that's that misinformation that has kind of crept in.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I noticed that like the history I learned in college was different than maybe history my parents' generation had, you know. And I talk about stuff I learned in class, and it was like sometimes it wouldn't end well, they'd be disturbed about what I said, and I thought it was right, and they thought it was wrong, and I didn't know who was right, and I didn't mean to like
Well,
get into like a pickle about it, you know what I mean? It's like, whoops.
the other essential thing that I wanted to say was, again, the revolution was even more of a civil war than the Americans wanted to break away. Because, I mean, the troops that Bannister Tarleton commanded at the Battle of Cowpens were actually patriots, loyalists from Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They called it the British Legion, but it was actually made up of Americans who stayed loyal to the crown.
I mean, that makes sense. That would be convenient, because, I mean, it'd be hard to get so many British soldiers overseas so quickly. That makes sense.
Well,
I did, not to
part of
interrupt,
it.
I remember I did read something once that there was a certain amount of people that were not against the crown, but for King George, and in America, and they would support the crown over here.
Right.
And they were like, these other people were fighting, like, hey, let's get away from them. But these were like, no, we want to stay with them. That's all I knew about it, though.
Yeah, no. It's much more complex than you really think, and of course, then the end thing is with Yorktown. It was really with French help that the Americans got their freedom.
I hear that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that makes sense. And my mom, I don't know the actual. I mean, she was really into history, but she told me that like the I don't know, like the Freemason clubs and things like that had a lot to do with the negotiations and the diplomacies that were made after the towards the end of the war, and ending the war, and just kind of laying out the facts that, like, hey, look, yes, we might govern this place, but it doesn't mean that it would like significantly offset your revenue to the degree that you wouldn't be benefited or whatever.
Similar to the Freemasons, my friend has written this book called Monumental Anthem about how the Knights Templar and other male organizations fought to make the Star-Spangled Banner the national anthem of this country. And he and I have been giving talks about how the Star-Spangled Banner became the national anthem. And I don't know what you people think about the politics of the day, but I think in a way the 250th will work for us. That shows what America should be all about.
I hear that. Some things that are going on right now concern me. We don't talk a lot about politics on this show. I will say, I'm a person that believes that, like, everybody in the United States should have the same chances. And sometimes, my personal opinion is sometimes you have to modify the law to make room for everybody to have a chance at survival, and that's that's just good democracy, I think. And that's just good, just being empathetic to like the greater amount of population we have, and I feel like that has not always been the case in the United States, and I think we need to get closer to a point where that's the case, to where anybody can go to even a public school and be able to pursue their dreams if they work hard enough. It would be nice if that wasn't just like a pie in the sky ideal, I mean,
sure.
People have done it before. Like, for instance, I was reading a book to my son the other day about Neil Armstrong. And so he, like, started out, his parents didn't have a lot, so he started working at age 12, I think, delivering papers.
Wow.
And because he wanted to fly so bad. And by 16, he got his pilot's license, because you could back then when you were 16. And, he, I don't know if you can these days. That's something I just don't know. But I know you can skydive at age 16. But anyways, so, or you could. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't really paid attention. But anyways, point being is that, he had like really strong goals at a young age and worked really hard to do things that like his parents were able to afford. And I really have a lot of respect for him because I did the same thing with music, even though I didn't get as far as that. But like, you know, I learned when I was like, my parents went through hardships when I was like 12 and 13. My dad passed away of cancer by the time I was 14.
Oh,
The
wow.
only present I got when I was 13 was a guitar because that's all they could afford. So I really took it seriously and I started writing songs. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I knew at an early age, going to even a church in Nashville, that, you know, all I heard from people that were established musicians that went to my church were, don't quit your day job, as if, like, they thought that I had, like, no chance, you know? And, or else, like, they thought it would be, like, a hard road. And so I knew real quick that, like, I wouldn't be able to afford studio time and it'd be hard for me to meet someone to give me a record deal. So I immediately started investing. You know, by 18, I had like a 4-track digital recorder and a synthesizer and a few guitars. And, you know, I worked my ass off for all that. And, I, you know, by the time I was 23, I had gone through so many emotional hardships that I lost most of that and had to build it all back by the time I was 26 or 27 and went back to college at 26 and finished at 32. So you know, it's not easy for everyone, and it's not like I think that I had a hard time. I took the Pell Grant and student loans, and I'm grateful they were there for me, and you know, I paid for it, and I'm grateful that I was able to. You know, if it wasn't the grace of people giving me opportunities, I would have never been able to pay that off.
Sure. Yeah. Good.
So, but that's something. And I'm going to sing a song tonight about grace and how important it is. And I don't mean to be political, but I think that in our country, we need to realize the grace that we've been provided and the necessity to, like, share grace with others. Because we can work 110, 150%, you know, but that's only about half of what it requires for us to get ahead. The others is other people giving us grace by sharing what they've attained or opportunities they have with us.
Yeah.
And that's the only way to get anywhere. So we can't forget other people that, you know, really provide a lot for us, you know, no matter how hard we work. So I don't know. That's my political spiel for the night.
I guess I just feel that we should be open to caring for other people. And that's really what it should be all about.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, what, you know what I mean? Like, why? What's wrong with empathy and, you know, sharing if you have a surplus, you know? What's wrong with that? I don't know.
So what type of music do you do? Is it country or blues or what?
I like to do folk and underground electronic music. I don't do anything that's really popular on purpose. I listened to something that David Bowie said tonight on, like, a reel on Instagram, and he was talking about how, like, most artists that he knows that really strive to be personal and serious about what they do not want to make success monetarily because that allows the proletariat, in his words, to, you know, steal access and ownership of the styles that they create, and kind of ruin it, you know, make it like what's that thing? It's like some kind of, I can't think of it right now, but, you know, just like things that end up as, like, you know, cool, like, you know, underground, you know, trendy things on, like, a sub level, and then they look like, you know, like Ed Hardy or like Von Dutch or something, you know, brands that started out by skateboarders and graffiti artists and made it to, like, big times, and then Paris Hilton and you know, Justin Timberlake were wearing that stuff, you know, and at that point you know, people were just ripping them off, you know, people were making fake stuff, and it just ruined their market, and then they just imploded. So that's what a lot of underground artists don't want to happen, you know, they just want to enjoy their lives.
So, well,
in privacy.
I just kind of admire creativity of any kind. I mean, I'm a poet and I'm an artist, and, you know, I just enjoy seeing what other people can do.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that you came to our show tonight, because we're, like, super serious about what we do, but we're kind of like the nerds on the block, and we're just super grateful for anyone who wants to come in and have a conversation with us publicly, because, you know, we put it on YouTube and everything, because it's just it's like to me it's like a real blessing, because, I mean, people like Brian and I, everybody that we've met in our lives, we've had to shake their hand and introduce ourselves to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay, yeah.
we don't get a lot of secondhand introductions. That's just not where we come from. So we appreciate you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Well, really, I like the fact that when you come on, we can actually not only be entertained, but we're kind of educated in some ways about things that have happened historically and stuff. And this is stuff that I really wish I would have followed history more after school, because I loved history in school and social studies, things like that. And so a lot of the material you talk about, Christopher, is amazing. It's just,
Well,
it makes me feel like I'm watching one of those great documentaries on the television, and I just want more of it.
you know, I just kind of educate myself, and you know, as I say, where I worked for the Johns Hopkins Medical Institute, I could walk to where Poe died, and then I could walk further along. There's what they call corned beef row, and there's this Jewish jet delicatessen. You walk a little bit further along the street, and that's where Poe was found dying. And you know, it's one thing after another.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I got involved, as I say, with Baltimore history. I came to Baltimore in 1955. I was given a set of flashcards soon after I arrived, and one of them was showing these British mortar bombs coming down on Fort McHenry. A lot of people think it's all about Fort McHenry. It really isn't. What really turned the tide for Baltimore was the British general being killed after they landed, and I only learned about that in the 1990s. I was taking my then stepdaughter to Dundalk Community College, and I saw this road sign saying Battle Grove Road, which clued me into the fact that a battle had taken place there. And that's when I started researching everything. And so it really kind of fascinated me, and I ended up going to Ireland, where General Robert Ross was from, and going to his monument. I climbed up on his monument. It was 1992. The Troubles were still going on in Ireland. I was stopped by a British Army patrol outside of Rostrevor, where he was from, and asked for my ID. And I showed my then Maryland driver's license, and the young man in camouflage and the submachine gun and everything said, "Oh, I've never seen one of them before." And he handed back my Maryland driver's license. And then when I went to visit the monument, I climbed up on it, and it had IRA graffiti on all four sides. There were a couple of men on the other side of the monument, and there was a British vessel out in Carlingford Bay, and I really think that they were IRA that were looking out towards with binoculars and everything. So it was quite a time, and then I went to the public record office and past the police station in Newry. It was all sandbagged and all of that, and I could have been killed when you really think about it.
Wow. Yeah, my mom, I want to say her family came here. I think my one of my great grandfathers, or I don't know how far go back, but it's like 1850 era, and he escaped from an orphanage in England, but was from Ireland.
Wow.
And I imagine that was because of the potato famine. I guess I was looking at history. That probably had something to do with it.
1840s, yeah, that's the potato famine, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So he ran away from he got out of an orphanage and somehow made it to the United States, and that's how my mom's vein started. And
it's amazing.
They're part Cherokee, but like the Irish, that's the story from the Irish side or whatever. And I think there's some other people that came a little before that they intermarried with, but that's like that's like the history of my mom's family.
Well,
but,
and again, it's that emigration that made America. You know?
Right, and I want to say my mom came from like the Southern Island. I think they came close to Dublin, so, and they were Protestant. So
Okay.
I know it's not.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
a bunch about the thing, but I know it's not very in Southern Ireland to be Protestant is hard. I think is what I've understood. I don't know. But.
Well, I mean, I for a year, my family and I, although we settled originally in Maryland, went up to Connecticut, and everybody up there was pretty much Catholic, and I had this idea that all Irish were Catholic. And then, of course, I went back to Liverpool in the 1960s and found out that there were Protestant Irish, which was kind of an eye-opener. And my first girlfriend was Catholic, Pat McDonough, and I took her home to visit my maternal grandfather, and he said after she was there, she's a redneck. Meaning, right. So, it's kind of incredible. It was really kind of an eye-opener that there were two different types of Irish.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because my mom, when I was a kid, I had some good friends from Connecticut actually, and they took me to a Catholic church, and I had such a great time, and I wanted to become Catholic. Then my mom, when I told her I wanted to become Catholic, I was probably 9 years old, She sat me down and had a long talk with me. And she's like, we love our Catholic friends, but we're Protestant, I guess is what she said. And I just knew that I had to like stick with family values. These days I'm very just not religious, okay? But like one thing I loved that my mom said before she passed away, when I was a kid, she always said, if you go to Ireland, trust me, if you walk into a bar and someone asks you, which are you? You got to say, what does it matter? Can I please buy you a drink?
Yeah, there you go. That's the way to do it.
History is amazing, though, and I think it's so important to know. I mean, it's so good for your brain, and it's just so good for society,
Right.
It's so important. So many things about it are important. Just as long as you look at it in sort of a neutral sort of way, and like a knowing that what was it like? Was it Socrates or Plato that said, "I know nothing"?
Okay.
But that's just to keep that idea in your head that like there's always something else that you don't understand, so you can't really assume anything.
Sure.
It's better not to have an answer than to have the wrong answer. So that's what I think.
Well, I was going to ask. I know we've been on here a bit. Do you have any new books you're working on right now? Any projects you're coming out with that the public might want to see or anything?
Well, as I say, I've been giving these talks with my friend from Maryland, Bob Cummins, about Monumental Anthem and the Star Spangled Banner. So that's been my latest project. But I do give a number of talks about Poe and War of 1812 and, as I say, the Battle of Cowpens. And I always like going to senior centers and telling people about various different things. And it's as much fun for me as I think for them. And I've given talks at military museums and so on. And,
That's great, because I bet you guys have a lot of great museums and places there that you can check out that you really don't have in the South. Like we have a statue of a guy here that's playing guitar downtown. Everybody always goes and takes a picture of the guy who's playing guitar. I think it's Chet Atkins or somebody. But I would love to go to a place that has stuff like Edgar Allan Poe stuff there, because I always dreamed of seeing Edgar Allan Poe's city. I heard many of the stories, and I feel like I've learned a whole lot tonight about Edgar Allan Poe.
Well, one of my other poems, I didn't read it tonight, but it's about snow at Edgar Allan Poe's statue. And even Edgar Allan Poe appreciates the humor.
That's good. Well, it's been great having you on the show tonight and everything. And if you'd like to, I was going to say, if you want to come back too to do some more about your new subject matter, we would love to have a show on that one too, because we've been trying to have something like every couple weeks or even a monthly with the Literature Cafe Global, so everybody can engage each other and hang out, like we are right now.
Well, I'd like to do that, Brian. Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back, and if there's any subject matter you'd like to add to it and anything, we'd love to just bring it on.
Yeah, well, as I say, I do my War of 1812 presentation.
All right.
That would be very good, I think, for our show.
You just name the dates or the times, because I understand you get very busy. Dates and times that can work and everything, and we'll try to put something together.
Yeah.
For the next one.
I got one question.
Talk about it.
Before we switch something else, what is Renegade Production? It's Denise Lescano.
Yeah.
Renegade Production Review. What is that?
Well, it's just the people that put together that video, and as I say, I didn't really agree with what they were talking about. But,
okay. Good to know. Yeah, I'm just making sure, because I'm just finding out what to share. Now I got you just finished it. Oh, that's okay. I'm just trying to find. Okay, so we can find you at Christopher T. George, all one, no spaces, .blogspot.com.
Yeah, that's one place to find me.
Okay, and if you want to share me some of your links, I will post them underneath the video in the info section.
Yeah, let me
add those. So
let me dig up a couple of other things that I have.
That's fine. You can hit me up on Facebook too with them too if you need to.
Yeah.
Like, no worries, I'll get them all on there. So yeah, and thank you. Before you get off, I would really like to play this song about grace for you, Christopher. If I don't know how much time you have, I know that you're in a different time zone, so it's probably an hour later for you. But I would like to play this before you get off.
I've got as much time as you like.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Cool. I would love you to stay and hear the rest of what we have.
Yeah.
I invite you to. I know sometimes it's hard for people to, but I'm just trying to be considerate of everybody's time. But yeah, I'll play this. Is that all right, Brian?
Yeah.
Cool. I think
I just wanted to make sure we weren't keeping Christopher too long.
Yeah.
But glad everybody's happy and we're all just having fun.
Yeah, this is a song I wrote around the time I got married in 2016, and my mother passed away that year. It was a rough year.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm still married. Very grateful I'm married. Still sad my mom's gone, but I don't know. It was a very particular year, I guess. But and then the year after that, I guess my wife's father passed away, and the year after that, my wife's mother passed away. So we lost 3 people in 3 years. They say things come in threes, and they sometimes do. I tell you what. But I don't know if they always do, but they certainly did that time. So, but this is called mustard seed because I don't know. It's kind of like I think there's an old saying. I don't know how many places it originates, but anything can be done with the faith the size of a mustard seed or whatnot. So I don't know. Hey, I'm David Koci, and this is called Reberhead, my project, and the song that I'm about to play is called Mustard Seed. America, we use our work to show our depth of virtue. We hope we are not what we think, that we are only what we do. I use my life as service for God and family, to provide a life and a tithe for the grace given to me. My work is hard, but not as smart to fulfill sufficiently the debts I use to patch many wounds temporarily. And I've been there for another in lament and in grief, to be questioned and then minimized and finally deceived. But my future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow me because of one well-planted seed. And my future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow me because of one well-planted one well-planted seed. The roots that grew into the ground, buried deep and firmly, now rising high up above the earth, a resilient budding tree. I watch some of those who raised me profit and accumulate a wealth they were so proud to win by the skills they learned to demonstrate. But my future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow me because of one well-planted seed. And my future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow me because of one well-planted one well-planted seed. Say that hard work is a virtue. Say that hard work is a virtue. Say that hard work is a virtue. They say that hard work is a virtue, that we deserve what we can take, and that others who are less fortunate may have been burdened by their mistakes. Do we forget that we've been given gifts none other than by grace? And that others were always watching us during the trials that we faced. America is fueled by individuality, but always solely responsible for our success and integrity. And our future is still promising. Is still promising, no, this you may not see. For grace will always follow us because of one well-planted seed. And and our future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow me because of one well planted still promising, this you may not see. Grace will always follow us because of one well-planted seed, and our future is still promising, though this you may not see. For grace will always follow us because of one well-planted one well planted seed.
Are you an admirer of Johnny Cash?
Oh, I love Johnny Cash, and I was actually going to say, when you were talking about Poe earlier, I saw a lot of parallels with like the life of Johnny Cash. You know, the way he, I don't know, just the way he was a very sad person, and I was watching.
Yeah.
What kind of made me think that was I was watching this film of people that were indigenous to India, I guess, or that area.
Okay.
Like
all
India,
right.
the you know those areas in the east, the southeast, you know, of Asia and stuff, and they got to see the song "Hurt" by that was covered the Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, that really blows me away. That song.
It's crazy because a lot of people think that Trent Reznor covered Johnny Cash. It's actually the other way around.
Yeah, sure.
It's more of a song that changes meaning depending upon who sings it.
Yeah.
I always felt like Cash's version was more about regrets.
Right. Yeah, and I think the one by Trent Reznor is about
I agree.
Too, kind of about addiction, probably too, but. I guess Johnny Cash had addictions too. Maybe he could relate to it, but everybody has addictions. You know what I'm saying? I have addictions. We all got addictions.
Yeah. That again.
I don't know. I can't put these stupid. This is like nicotine pouches, so I don't smoke cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
They're a little better than dip. You know what I'm saying? As far as like the damage they do to you. So I mean, I don't know. Shoot, I can relate in a slight form. I'm not going to say you can never relate to anybody totally, but like, yeah, I love Johnny Cash. Thank you. Anyways, what were you going to say about Johnny Cash? I'm sorry.
Well, I have written a Jack the Ripper musical, involved with a French composer who kind of writes in kind of country music and so on. So
that's fantastic.
So that's how I got involved in all of that, amongst my many interests.
Yeah, he's like a big inspiration of mine.
Yeah.
As far as like people might, I have a lot of inspiration. Some of them aren't very, I don't know, pop culture, I guess. But like, as far as pop culture, I really am inspired by Johnny Cash and like Grateful Dead, David Bowie.
Yeah,
Bob Marley, Bob Dylan, Joan Baez.
Okay.
What is it? Oh God, why can't I think of her name? She sings "Cut Down Trees, Put It in a Parking Lot." I know her name. Can y'all help me here? Can I get a lifeline?
I'm thinking. I just don't know. What was it again?
Oh God, my wife would know if she was here. It's she sings "Chop Down Trees, Put in a Parking Lot."
Oh,
So
I don't know her name either.
I feel terrible.
Joni Mitchell.
Joni Mitchell, thank you so much.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, I felt like disrespectful not knowing that.
Yeah, she's one of my favorites. Yeah, I like her.
Yeah, and then she's great. And was it the I don't know stuff like that, you know. I'm trying to think of another one. Stevie Nicks, you know, all them.
Sure.
I love her.
Strong stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good music. I mean, and I will say I love the Beatles. I didn't understand them until later on in my life because at first I thought they were singing just silly lyrics. It wasn't until I got out of college with money spent and saw no future and paid no rent and all the money was gone nowhere to go. All that magic feeling, you know, the Abbey Road. Yeah.
You would think, coming from Liverpool, I would have got into the Beatles early on, but I only got involved in pop music, as we called it, in 1965, and it was the Animals from Newcastle that got me involved, you know, in my life, and you know, all of those.
That's awesome. I kind of vaguely know the Animals. I can't remember what they sing, but I
All right.
they're good.
Question: since you lived in what we could call Beatles land, did you ever have any opportunities there to see the Beatles perform, Christopher?
I did not. Basically, because it was only, I guess, a year later, after the Beatles had moved down to London, that I got involved. And as I say, it was the Newcastle group, the Animals, that got me involved in it. You know, and by that time, the Beatles had moved away. Now, I did visit the cabin at a lunchtime session, but there was no music going on at that time. And a weird thing happened in Liverpool, that the attitude of the Liverpool Corporation was, oh, the Beatles are just a passing phase, you know. And
right. See, people said that it jinxed them.
They allowed the original cabin to be partly demolished for the expansion of a subway station, or an underground, as they'd call it, over there. And but then later on, of course, you know, Beatles tourism has become big in Liverpool. Right. So, you know, and similarly, I mentioned earlier my granduncle, who was a music hall comedian. His son became general manager of the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra in southern England, and his attitude was similar. Oh, the Beatles, they aren't going to last. But then, of course, later on, the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra had pops concerts of Beatles music, you know, so...
I gotta say, I really like Abbey Road. That's probably my favorite Beatles album, and they're really early stuff, just because it brings back good childhood memories when my dad introduced me to 50s and 60s.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about the Beatles. They changed from era to era. You know, I mean, there were so many groups in the 1960s that were just, you know, one song identified them, but the Beatles had hit after hit after hit.
That's awesome. Finn. I mean, it's cool. I mean, they're a pretty good band to have a lot of hits. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for like a really popular band, they had a lot of great things they said in their music that I think,
right.
Especially Paul McCartney. I will just highlight Paul McCartney because I think he's personally my favorite songwriter, and then George Harrison. I thought he was pretty cool.
Oh, my favorite was John, and
okay.
I've got a number of poems about John.
Okay, I mean, he wrote some great songs. Don't get me wrong. Like, I like the Instant Karma, Something the Way She Moves.
Yeah.
I guess he wrote that on Abbey Road. The Don't Want to Leave Her Now. I think it's called Something the Way She Moves. That's a good one.
Okay.
And, what is it? Of course, Imagine. That's a great song. And,
well, what I always tell is that John would never have written Imagine without him meeting his Japanese wife.
Okay,
Right.
okay, I can see that because that I don't know for a fact, but I'm just saying maybe he got like more of a collectivist insight knowing her.
I think so. I
Okay.
think it really changed him.
I can see that. I love that attitude, the whole like family oriented sort of like, and that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Is that we got to remember that like, no matter what kind of ideals we have and what kind of intuition or ability to work and have skills, like we're nothing without the people around us. They've all everybody around us have nourished us our whole lives, hopefully,
Yeah. Well. Again, as I'm saying, I mean, John would never have written Imagine without Yoko. That took him there.
That's a good thing, I think. I mean, Yoko seems to have been like a really good influence on him, if that's the case. That's great.
Yeah, I really think that changed him. I mean, before that he was just a Liverpool guy, and then he suddenly became worldwide, and then they could have "This Is Christmas, War Is Over" and all of that.
That's great. It's kind of me meaning, I mean, I was pretty like, I don't know. I try to be like kind of live and let live, and try to share my joy with other people. But my wife is like very adamant about that sort of thing and about how important it is for people to, treat each other with mutual respect and,
yes,
and just like, realizing that everybody else is just as much as a human being as you are, things like that. And I love that she's like that, because if I ever get a little too off, she definitely reminds me of what's important, and I respect that, So.
Well, that's really what I think, that we've got to respect everybody else.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're all struggling in this world.
Oh yeah.
We've got to help each other.
Especially those of us who are struggling more, or I'm sure
Exactly.
it's not easy for anyone, but like, yeah, especially if you've had a hard time and you've somehow gotten out of it. I mean, and if you're at a comfortable place, take that extra time, to help pull people else out,
Right.
I strongly believe that. Yeah. Absolutely. And I feel like that's what they did in a lot of ways. I mean, they really inspired a lot of people to think a little more sensibly, with that Imagine song and the instant karma and
yeah, that's it.
And I really like the song about his I was adopted and he was adopted. So I could really relate to the song about his mother that he wrote about like how he wanted her but she didn't want him or whatever,
Right.
I have some understanding about, I imagine my birth mother was just not she was young and she was not ready for a kid yet, and I respect that, and I'm grateful for her to handing me to people who were good parents, and I'm glad, so I have no complaints. But like, I understand his feelings and the pining and the yearning for wanting to know where he come from,
Well, it's just kind of amazing that both Paul and John lost their mothers early.
Yeah, that must have been hard. Like, I can't imagine. I was in my mid-30s when I lost my mother, and that was hard enough. I can't imagine losing.
That is something that is something they had in common. I heard in the history of it that him and John kind of bonded over losing their family or so early or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember hearing that.
Well, as you may know, John's mother was killed by an out of control guy driving his car, and it's sometimes said he was drunk. I've since recently heard that he wasn't drunk.
Okay. Once again, thank you for sharing us the fact that maybe we just don't have facts. You know what I'm saying? That's cool.
Yeah, I'm always glad to share what I have.
I love it. I love people that debunk stuff and people that also just share that there needs to be more information about something. I think that would save a lot of grief if
Yeah.
people did that, you know?
Well, let's do the War of 1812 thing. I mean,
If you'd like to, we could set it up, say maybe next week, even if you want, or 2 weeks, whether you choose.
next week, couple of weeks, whichever you want to do.
Okay, let's just do it sooner than later because I don't want to spread things out too far. But because I've actually made plans to do things and then get to be able to do them later on. So I'd rather do it next week. So I would say, yeah, next Thursday, let's sit down and have the War of 1812 on the Lit Cafe Global.
Sounds great.
Sounds
I'm
good.
up for it.
Thank you, sir, and I appreciate you so much. And Brian, thank you very much for putting this on. Michael,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your
Michael, thank you to Michael and Rebecca.
Thank you, everyone.
Which is fantastic and super intelligent. And Rebecca, thank you so much for listening and helping us with facts. Thank you.
And,
Hey.
so, guys, whenever you watch
Good
this,
shit.
next week, Thursday, will that be the 12th? David?
Yes, the 12th.
All right, so Thursday, the 12th, coming up, when you're watching this, realize that we're going to be discussing the War of 1812 on the Literature Cafe Global. If you're
Okay.
sick, you can have a great time, people. And this has been Christopher T. George, Mr. Michael Forman, David Koci, Rebecca Jane Catherine. I am Brian Burchette. We had Patrick Michael on the show tonight.
Yes,
And we're
thank
coming
you,
back
Patrick.
next week, so tell a friend.
Amen.
All right.
Peace out, y'all. Someone to be.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. All right. We're going to end it. Let's end it tonight.
All right. So
Give us about, how many, 3 minutes, David? I like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, whatever. Let's do
you
it.
missed.
We end the show on you.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm gonna go now. Okay.
All right. Record.
Why is that not do? Oh, that's. Fail.